We're entrepreneurs. We start businesses. We own businesses. In this market crash, I've made more money in the last 3 years in my whole life. And so that's what I want to talk about with you today, is that there's other ways of looking at investing, but to think that Powell is going to save you, when, as you may know, the reverse repo market is running at 2 trillion a day today.
Right.
2 trillion a day. And people are listening to Powell? You got to be kidding me. and look at Janet Yellen. Oh my God. I think she was on the Munsters or something like that, that old TV show.
But it is crazy. I mean, Powell was saying in one side of his mouth, the economy is very strong. There's no worry about recession, right? And then you've got all these extraordinary emergency measures going on in the repo market. So, all right, I want to take it exactly where you want to take it here, Robert. So, another way to say what you're saying is hey, look, we may need a different playbook going forward for wealth building. And you, as you just said, are having a lot of success right now. And one of the things that I see you doing, and feel free to take this any direction you want, but you are not buying claims on assets the way that people do in the stock market or whatnot. You are buying the assets directly.
Correct. I own no stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. I do not touch paper. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I'm saying people have been brainwashed by the Fed, the Treasury, and whatever those guys are. Go to school, get a job, pay your taxes, get a high-paying job, and invest for the long term in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. It was in 1974 when I came back from Vietnam, a two-tour Marine helicopter pilot. I saw communism at work. It was not pretty. And I come back in 1974, they passed ERISA. ERISA stands for 401k right now, or IRA. And I went, oh my God, they're funneling my generation, the boomers, into the stock market. And they don't know anything about money. And in 1974, the biggest exodus, Adam, was school teachers suddenly becoming financial planners. I watched that with horror.
Interesting.
I watched it in horror. That's the poor leading the blind. And today we have baby boomers who are hoping the stock market stays up in their 401k just as Social Security goes bust. You think that's an accident? That's all I'm saying. I'm just a Marine. I'm a dumbass Marine lieutenant. Flew the gunship, went down 3 times. But today I listen to this bullshit and I go, oh my God, how can we be that stupid? Because we went to school, we did as we're told. Don't fight the Fed, do as the Fed tells you. Invest for the long term with a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. And don't worry, Powell is now channeling Volcker. When the debt to GDP is at 120%, you gotta be kidding me.
All right, so I just had a long discussion with Lance Roberts this past weekend on sort of the horrible state of financial literacy in this country. So that's the world that you live in, Robert, in terms of trying to help sort of re-educate people here. It's a big focus of your books. It's a big focus of your conferences and whatnot. So let's do a little re-education right here.
What do I do? Let me tell you what I do.
Okay, so start there.
So when they were dropping the interest rates, I thought I died and went to heaven because I'd buy apartment houses. I own 13,000 apartment houses. Every time the Fed dropped the interest rates, it jacked the value of my properties up, but I also improved the properties and I refinance out. So today I own no money in any of my properties. 13,000 units, all throwing cash. But
right. Sorry, let me just underscore here too. So a big factor of what you look for in an investment is cash flow.
Cash flow, positive.
Yeah, positive cash flow. So I don't want to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure people realize that that's going to be a common theme of what you talk about here.
It's also called an infinite return. But the other thing too is Rich Dad is a brand now. And I got hammered by the New York Times. Came out 25 years ago, just the time I met you. I got hammered. So you don't know what you're talking about. I said, maybe you don't. Well, I have a master's degree, I have a PhD. I said, that's what I mean. You might not know what you're talking about. Because Rich Dad never went to school. But my poor dad was a PhD, which stood for poor, helpless, and desperate. And he was in charge of labor unions. He was pro-tax. He was pro-tax to rich. Sounds like AOC to me. Do you know what I mean? I'm listening to this and going, my family, oh my God. So in 1965, I leave Hawaii, where I went to school. I go to school in New York, and my economics teacher is a West Point graduate who flew B-17s in World War II. And instead of having us read Malthus and Ricardo and the Malthus, he had us read Marx, Stalin, and Mao. And the theory at military school is know your enemy. So I understand Marx fairly well, the Communist Manifesto, 1848. And so that was 1965, 1966 was my first trip to Vietnam. I'm carrying bombs to Vietnam on a victory ship sailing out of San Francisco Harbor. And then I saw communism firsthand. I went, oh my God, I could see the future. And we're eventually overrun by communists. And so in 1930, the Frankfurt School out of Germany, which is Marx's institution, sent teachers to Columbia University's Teachers College in 1930. That was stage one of communism. And then they had to influence our academics first. And so when I came back from Vietnam, this time as a Marine pilot, and I was flying gunships in Vietnam. As you know, Adam, I was greeted at Norton Air Force Base, spit on, hit with eggs, all these Woodstock generation hippies. I said, man alive, I fought for you guys. And I lost so many friends who were all Marine. The saddest days of my life is standing on the deck of my aircraft carrier, and my friends don't come back. You never see them again. Their aircrafts are shot down. They're still MIA. And I get spit on, hit by eggs and all this stuff. But that woke me up, so I started studying more. What is happening in America? So as I said, I use debt now to get rich, and then I invest in hard assets. So that's what we can talk about. My point of view here is, ladies and gentlemen, I would question what you've been taught from school. That's all I'm saying.
Right. And for those who've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, they totally get that comment. For those that haven't, first, you should go read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It really is one of the best onboarding books for kind of opening your mindset in terms of how to look at the world of wealth building. There's a reason why it's the #1 best-selling personal finance book in history. But Robert, so one of the things that I've really taken from you, and I already just sort of emphasized this earlier, is your big focus. It's very practical, right? And so you don't get caught up in these crazy narratives. It's all very for you. It's all just how things pencil out. But you have your focus on cash flow, meaning so much of the way to get wealthy for the past several decades, as the central banks have been intervening and just pushing the cost of money lower and the cost of asset prices higher, is everybody has looked at appreciation. And it's easy to feel brilliant in that type of environment. Right? You can almost close your eyes, throw a dart, and whatever you hit, is going to do well, right? But cash flow is eternal, right? Those appreciation returns are ephemeral because they're totally tied to what monetary policy is, which can change on a dime at times, like it is right now, right? What you are doing is you're doing a way that builds wealth over time, in good times and in bad. And I think, we don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think the type of environment you think we have ahead of us, just literally in the next year plus, cash flow is going to become much more important in that environment. Is that true?
It's everything. But listen to this part about it is what you're talking about. I think you're the guy that said it. You said in a bull market, even idiots feel smart.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's one of the best sayings I've ever heard, because I'm listening to all these idiots, after 2011, the market crashed in 2008 because the repo market went bad. And the repo market is the credit of Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns was bad. And they hammered Bear. Anyway, it's a long story. My friends are all inside that world. But then when it came back out, they just started pumping money, just like you said about Christine Lagarde. You just start lying.